What's popping in the streets, everybody? I believe, therefore I'm King Sala. Hope you're doing all right today. We got another hot trending topic. I felt triggered, so therefore, obviously, I feel like talking about it. First and foremost, before we go ahead and get started, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the page. Any subscription that helps propel the page forward. Any comment that you put, obviously, in the comment section helps other people engage in different types of conversation. So therefore, it propels me to keep making content and keep making videos that you guys may be interested in or that you may be triggered in. So with that being said, again, welcome to King Solid TV. We've got a very interesting topic today. Let's just go ahead and run it. So, is it hard being black in any fan base? That's the question I had to ask myself. Now, to give a little bit of introduction, because y'all know I don't like to just blindly jump out of anywhere. So, I'm 33 years old, about to be 34 in March. I've been an anime fan for literally probably about maybe 18 or 19 years, might even argue 20, because I remember being a Pokemon fan as a kid, obviously, and that was like in the 90s, so, I was born in 89 and stuff like that, so I mean, like, probably, 2000s maybe, so, it could have been, whatever the case may be, but I definitely know it's over 15 years, that's for sure. I really kind of got into anime because I was a really big fan of martial arts movies, really enjoyed like fighting and, watching all those really great adventurous movies with sword fighting, obviously like the Zorros, you saw the Blind Samurai, or Blind Swordsman. I remember watching all of like Bruce Lee's films, Fist of Fury, Chinese Connection and stuff like that. I remember watching that as a kid. And then of course, obviously we don't have the variety of films that we have out right now. We definitely just don't simply have, we didn't have the community that we have today, didn't have access to social media and all these places that we can watch films, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, so on and so forth. We didn't have that back then. So obviously when I ran out of ideas and things to watch, like to keep me entertained when there weren't any movies out, eventually I found anime. Of course, shouts out to Toonami. That wasn't like my first instance where I saw anime. I remember watching it somewhere on somebody's cable TV. I think it was like, or not cable TV, but it was a DVD of something. Obviously, I remember all the old school ones. Like, obviously you have like Foolie Cooley and Cowboy Bebop and Dragon Ball Z. And then of course, Pokemon was out back then and stuff like that. I just remember seeing that very, very early on in my life. And I'd always loved cartoons. Shouts out to Cartoon Network, rest in peace. But it had really exposed me to a lot of that. And so obviously, like I said, being a lover of fighting and adventure and stuff like that, my attention turned to anime. And so, like I said, I've always been a fan for a very, very, very long time. So the biggest thing that for me is that whenever I started watching these things, it was just nice to just simply have something that triggered my imagination in a different way. Now, fast forwarding, obviously, to recently when we get on this particular topic regarding anime and why I asked the question, do black fans have it harder? And when I say fans, and I mean like I think personally, in my opinion, I think the answer is yes, because we have it hard in the Marvel universe. We have it hard, like we have it DC universe when it comes to Star Wars. I don't really lean too much into Star Trek or anything like that. My dad was a big fan of that, but that really wasn't necessarily my thing. But now obviously when we look at anime, I think we do truly have it bad. And I did have a particular situation that did trigger this particular video and made me want to make it. So the situation that happened, I was on this one guy's page, DBZ I'm Ran. I'll put it right here so that way you guys can see what I'm talking about. And they had pretty much this poll, and as most people know, my favorite anime is Bleach. They had this poll between a couple of captains basically saying, you know, who was the best captain. They had Ukitake up there. And then, of course, most people know or may not know, but my favorite character, my two favorite characters in the show are Kaname Tosen and Kiroko Shunsui. I can never say Shunsui. Kiroko. I just can't do it. I can't do it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But those are my two favorite characters. And out of those captains that they had on there, they had Tosen. And my answer was Tosen. And I put in my comments basically saying that, you know, Tosen, you know, I'm not saying that he's some superhero or something like that, but we did definitely see that, you know, there was a lot of depth to his character. And I proceeded to explain this to on the page. And this, whatever that guy's name is, like, again, I'll put it right here, so, you know, so that you guys can see it. But he pretty much just got on there and basically say, you know, hey, like, you probably only like this character because you're probably a Black Lives Matter supporter. And it was just completely out of nowhere. Like, it really tripped me out. And it was just like an example of like what I feel like Black people as a whole, or people of color, have to deal with when it comes to being fans in these type of areas. Because again, that wasn't warranted. I didn't say that he was a great character. The example that I just simply gave is that the reason why I think Tosen has so much depth is because we see multiple layers of what it is to be human within him. You know, to be manipulated, to feel like you're walking a righteous path, and turns out it just simply turns into blind vengeance of hatred, jealousy, rage, you know, hope, despair. Like, you see all those things displayed within his character. And then this guy just comes in and just pretty much simply said, oh, you only like him because he's Black, or, you know, because you're probably some Black Lives Matter supporter. And I'm just like, wow, that's pretty fucking random, because it's like, you know, as a person of color, like, we don't have a lot of strong representation when it comes into the anime world. Even with Bleach, like, there's two characters that are Black in that entire show that we've seen. There's Tosen and there's Yoroichi. Those are the only two characters that we've seen that are Black. And if there is any other characters that are Black in there, they ain't worth mentioning. Chado is I feel like he's Latino. I don't think he's Black. So I don't like when people say that, you know, got melanin, but he's not black. But as far as like when we look at like when we look at these certain situations, it's like, damn, like every single fucking time, like people of color are always having to deal with like the backlash or a certain level of scrutiny or judgment from everybody else because of our skin color, or, you know, simply because of our choice. Like, what's more is like, yeah, like as fans, like, we came here to get away from reality. We came to engage in a world that is completely fictional. All these characters are fictional. We're just simply here to enjoy ourselves and say like, man, I enjoy this storyline. I enjoy this character. I enjoy where this is going. It's supposed to be, in a sense, therapy or a release from the harsh reality that we live in every single day. So I don't think that we should always have to come into certain situations, you know, and be like, you know, or have people just simply judge us because of the way that we look. And obviously this cat, you know, I always tell people online, the biggest cowards in the world, in my personal opinion, are always the people who at least in the anime world, they always have a picture of an anime character. They never show their face. They want to have a super big opinion, but they don't want people to see them for who they truly are, because they're either some fat slob or they're some like weirdo looking cat. So therefore they have to reflect their judgment, you know, on other people. So it's just crazy. And then of course, I mean, we have, you know, another example I remember watching a while back. I think it's called her page on TikTok is called Afro Cocoa Puff. But I remember she had this video basically came out, she dressed up like Hinata, and, you know, she kind of made this song basically saying, you know, Hinata is not Black, you know. But just in case you need that example, here it is. Run it.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing, chilling. Just looking at these trolls on TikTok.
Why? What'd they say?
Hinata isn't Black. Hinata isn't Black. Hinata isn't Black. Hinata isn't Black.
She gonna be Black today. She gonna be Black today. She gonna be Black today.
Oh my God.
She gonna be Black today.
Hold up.
So yeah, that's the video. So it's just like it's yet again another example of just simply like, you know, how harsh like people of color are being judged. And the one thing that always trips me out that's kind of funny but very harsh is that, like, obviously we know anime is celebrated worldwide, but obviously it's based out of Japan. We know this. There's no problem at all. But it always makes me laugh to where it's like, you know, we get so much backlash from everybody around the world. Like, especially when it comes to like, you know, I listen to like, you know, and you see it online, like some people just don't care. Like we see like, you know, white people or Asians and stuff like that, they'll get on there and they'll just be like, oh, Hinata's not Black. Okay. What's your point? but it also makes me laugh is every time we go to freaking Comic-Con or you go to any other anime major convention or anything like that celebrates anime and its fan base, you have a bunch of Caucasian people dressing up as anime characters, despite the fact that these characters are Japanese. Or they may be Chinese, or they may be Korean. Like, obviously, like I said, now for sure, anime is celebrated worldwide. But for some reason, it's only the people of color who ever get judged for dressing up as characters. Like you literally have to just like go and like watch and just see how crazy it is to simply just be black. Like, even when you get in certain fan, like, hell, we know in Call of Duty, like, people will call you the N-word in a heartbeat. Oh, fuck you. Oh, it's like, okay, well, that's how it is. Okay, and then when we get here, it's just like, oh no, this character is originally Japanese, you can't do that and stuff like that. Okay, but again, we'll allow it everywhere else, in every other race. Everybody else can do cosplay, but black people can't. We can't do our own rendition of it. We can't make it look different. Like, I thought we were all celebrating our love for anime here. I don't think I was supposed to be subjugated to these type of judgments in this space. But for some reason, it keeps coming up. And that's what always trips me out, is it's just weird. And, the coldest one that I think I definitely remember, and I'm just touching on multiple areas and stuff like that, is I remember I was on this Star Wars page, fan page a while back. I think this is literally probably about over 2 years ago, but it stuck with me. And they pretty much had this had another poll. It was basically, people were asking, what was the reason for Anakin's downfall or his fall to the dark side. And they had people like, they had like, okay, it was Darth Sidious's fault, it was Padme's fault, it was the Jedi Council, and then it was like it was directly like, pointing out, oh, it's Mace Windu's fault. And even looking at that particular situation, I was like, okay, these are all people that, obviously aside from Padme and Sidious, these, like, Mace Windu didn't have no super direct influence on his life. And then it just goes from Jedi Council and then just directly to Mace Windu. It didn't highlight anybody else. It didn't say Kenobi. It didn't say Qui-Gon Jinn. It didn't say anybody else that maybe had a much bigger impact on their lives. It didn't say Rex, and it didn't say Ahsoka. Any of those people. It just directly, Mace Windu, let's put him in there. And then when we went back and watched the poll, when I looked at the polls and stuff like that, it was overwhelmingly in favor that it was Mace Windu's fault. Now, obviously, I didn't want to jump the gun and just simply say, oh, yeah, I only voted for him because he's black. But I mean, if you follow like the storyline as far as like the relationship between Mace Windu and Anakin, we all know that Mace Windu was somebody that really, he openly said, he's like, I don't trust Anakin. He has too much privilege, like he has too much leniency. He's too close to Darth Sidious, whom we obviously know is Senator Palpatine by this point. Shouldn't be a spoiler alert, you should know by now. But it was just simply, it was like, I think it was like 67% in favor of it being Mace Windu's fault. And when I went back and looked at the comments, I was just like listening to like, certain comments, and it was just like over and over again, people were just like, well, it was his fault because he was too mean and he didn't believe in Anakin and stuff like that. I'm like, so you're telling me out of all the people here, the master manipulator, Padme, who is clearly much older than him, who exposed him to sex early on, like we're all adults here. We're not going to pretend like when you don't start having sex, like there isn't kind of a chemical response that happens in your mind that, obviously you start kind of getting a little addicted to that. You know what I'm saying? Skipping the science, but you hear what I'm saying. And I pretty much and there was this other guy named Steve in there, and I can't remember. I just remember him being kind of like chubby, heavyset black guy with glasses, and he was bald, kind of looked like Carl Winslow. And he was the only other person of color in that comment section that was kind of, I'm like, hey guys, so you're telling me out of all these people, because Mace Windu, who is inherently connected, not inherently, but by his people are naturally connected to the dark side, and he chooses to live a life to where he strictly stays in balance as far as like, I'm going to stick to the rules at all time because I know my weaknesses. I need to stay in balance. Like, that was the objective of the Jedi Order. Okay? To have balance, or at least for some of them. You know, obviously that's another conversation in itself. But Mace Windu was somebody who was aware of like his weaknesses and his downfalls. So he walked a very thin line, and he saw the exact same thing in Anakin, which is why he kept him on such a very a tight rope. So listening to them, like you heard like certain comments, I remember hearing them, it's like, oh, it's people like him, and it's just like people like him. I'm like, why are y'all talking like this? Like, it's just like, you know, this is, and when we try to get in there and defend him and stuff like that, is, oh, here it comes, you know, the stereotypical people always defending. And I'm just like, damn, like, is that what you guys automatically jump to? You're telling me that out of everybody in the entire Star Wars franchise, majority of the blame is on Mace Windu. And ultimately, one thing that I had to kind of step back and realize, and I ended up leaving that page because like it really did start to get racist, because people started using the N-word and started saying like, oh, but you black people are always trying to defend yourselves and never take responsibility, like that type of stuff. I had to remember that with majority of these fan bases, a lot of them, like such as like Batman and Superman and DC and even, you know, like those guys have been around since the 1930s. Like even Star Wars was created during the 70s. That was still in the era of what I call the good old boys era. Where it's like you have a good majority of older white male men, obviously, who simply like things the way that they are. That was still a time frame to where it was like, you know, hey, we're not, you know, obviously racism is bad, but we're not going to change the way that we are. You know, only now have we gotten into a space to where like it's like, okay, like, hey, racism is not cool. But even then it's still practiced, and some people still live that type of lifestyle to where it's like, no, I don't want change. Things need to stay the exact same the way they are. White is everything. And you can see that in a lot of these fan bases, some people choose to go based off of what they believe when it comes to their culture or their race. We see it all the time. And that's why I'm saying like it's just been a weird situation for me as far as being a fan in these fan bases or in these spaces, because again, like it trips me out because black people have contributed so much to culture. Like some of like the most Megan Thee Stallion, Michael B. Jordan, Lil Yachty, and Uzi Vert. Like these are some people that we've openly seen like rock anime or say that they watch anime and stuff like that. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, not saying that anime hasn't gotten more popular, but we're not going to pretend like black people, we didn't have a hand in making this shit cool. Because back then, you were nerds, it was weird and stuff like that. But then now when you see a lot more popular artists in this day and age rocking with anime, now all of a sudden it's cool. So it's like we cannot sit here and pretend like black people have not contributed to the growth and the popularity of anime today. So that's just simply my take on it. And I think it's just one of those things that we just have to be realistic about. Like we don't exist in that time frame anymore. Like you just got to give it up to everybody in the fan base. Like we should be pushing towards a much more receptive and understanding environment, especially for people of color, people of sexual orientation, whatever the case may be. Like I don't care what you do outside of here, as long as we can have a good conversation and at least understand where we're both coming from. We ain't got to agree, but I just want to at least understand where you're coming from. But when it comes down to it, like racism is not something I'm ever gonna respect or subjugate myself to, just simply because, hey, it's, again, all these fan bases have always been so white or they've been so Asian forever. People of color are just now starting to get a good look. The same way that we look at, Batman and Black Panther. One's rich, the other's rich. One's a king, one's a businessman or a trust fund baby. One's a crusader and one's a warrior. But guess what? No one ever gets Batman shit. But ever since the cultural phenomenon of Black Panther came, this is just setting black people back hundreds and thousands of years. I don't want to hear that shit. So I think it's about time that I need those type of people to get off their high horse and stop being fucking hypocrites. People of color, we're here. We rock with anime and all types of fan base, and we're not going anywhere. And whether you want to admit it or not, we make this shit look good. We did that shit when y'all couldn't. So that's all I got. If you fuck with the video, let me know. If you don't like it, leave me a comment. But of course, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, please. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.